so you just can't predict it. But it will be a busy window probably from the November through February timeframe.
Yeah, so I had a question about maintaining the in-state status, because Massachusetts is the home state. And I know it varies state by state, so I called up the admissions offices in California for the state schools. And I asked them kind of explicit questions about, if I pay taxes outside of California, is that going to be a problem? And they kind of dodged the question. So I guess that's one of the stressors for me. So my question is, is that something that stressed you all out about, and are there any steps that you took to maintain your status, or is it more of like what Rachel was saying, like, can they see that you will establish ties or you have roots in this state?
One thing about it, I dealt with this a lot because I had lived in Illinois for several years, and then I came out here, and I really wanted to get Illinois residency. It varies state by state. Some states will allow you to do residency if you went to high school there. You're able to claim residency for the rest of your life. But some places are weird. The advice I would have is it's not a hard and fast system, and it's definitely a quality, depending on the state, it's definitely a subjective judgment that'll come down. So I would say that if you're thinking about it, just do it, and it's up to them to prove you wrong. Things I did to maintain residency is I made sure to, I paid taxes in Massachusetts this year, but last year I made sure to pay as much as I could in Illinois. And then I actually voted in Illinois. Just anything you can do to try to maintain. If your parents still live there, see if you can keep them from moving to Florida for a couple of years. Anything that you can do to strengthen your ties, and definitely look at the specific state rules, because if you're I think Georgia or some of the states, if you grew up there, you're in for life and you don't need to worry about it. I definitely got on the phone with the UIC people and was what do I have to do in order to get state residency? And they're well, we don't really know. The big one is, did you live there and pay taxes there? Did you work there and pay taxes there? And that's what counted for me really good for Illinois, because I lived there for 4 years and paid taxes all 4 years in Illinois. So that's the big one.
Odds are, if they can't give you a straight answer about whether or not.
If they can't give you a straight answer, definitely claim it. Definitely claim it, because the worst they can say is, oh, that doesn't count. A lot of times I think that they don't make that big of an issue of it, but I'm not sure. It's definitely there's a set of rules, and then at some point someone's going to say, okay, I think he falls under these rules.
We covered all bases.
Oh, one thing that I did want to say about the financial aid, asking offices to match different schools' offers. So the financial aid office is separate from the Office of Admissions. So asking the financial aid office won't help. You need to ask admissions, because they're the ones that are going to be able to make the decision based on recruitment dollars that they have as to whether or not they're going to extend a scholarship to you. The financial aid office essentially crunches the numbers, crunches your FAFSA, determines the aid dollars, so they're not going to have any say on that. So ask admissions, not financial aid.
So I have a question about recommendation letters. So for undergrad, I was used to really small seminar classes where I knew my professor directly, and now I'm a huge lecture. How are you able to get recommendation letters from your science professors, and not a generic letter? If I don't know.
Your TF.
Your TF.
Your TF will, when you request a letter from them, either your professor will explicitly tell you to talk to your TF, or they will go to your TF and be how is this person as a student? And your TF essentially has a huge input on what they put in the letter.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of the one sphere of influence, unless you have some connection to your professor through going to their office hours individually or what have you. Definitely your TF is going to be the person that you have the most contact with and will have the most information to speak about you. So.
Yeah, so be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the science professors get a bajillion requests, so
Right.
don't be like hesitant or shy about
Yeah.
it. And if they don't respond, don't be afraid to follow up,
Okay.
either with your TF or with the.
I think we have time for like 2 more questions.
Oh, and just make sure if they do recommendations, like send a thank you letter and maybe like a little thank you gift or something.
Still
That's okay.
Like I sent some like honey from Wisconsin to people, you know, something small that.
Tobacco.
Yeah, that would have been a good option. No, but something that's like a little. I appreciate that you taking the time to. I know it's probably not very fun. You know.
Your essay, can you talk a little bit about when did you start preparing for your first essay? Did you have other people read it or?
Yeah, I started typing my essay out in like mid-late May. Actually, probably it was after I took the MCAT, so like very early June. And you know, it's pretty short. Pick something that's interesting. Whatever you do, don't have it be like I volunteered abroad and I realized I was actually like learning about myself. Like try to avoid really over. Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, have it be honest, and I would absolutely, have advisors on it, but don't oversubscribe multiple people, or else it just ends up going back and forth all around. Everybody else has a different idea of where it should go. I would just pick like maybe 2 people to send it back and forth to. And yeah, there are a lot of different philosophies as to how the essay should be written. Some people say don't make any jokes in it. Some people say you have to make a joke in it. Just have it be honest and reflective of that story, like we were saying, like the narrative of your life leading you to medicine.
And I would say also sleep on it a bit. You know, write a draft, write a revision, have people review it, leave it for a week, come back and read it, and see if you still are moved by it, or still, feel that it's honest and true and the best representation of you. I didn't put jokes in
Jokester.
mine, I don't think.
No, I got a question in my Case Western interview. She brought up the joke I made in my personal essay. And it's like, that was really funny. I'm in.
The way you guys talk about having how important it is about having that narrative or whatever, I feel like we should take a journal and just write about ourselves all the time.
I mean, you could do that if you want.
What I don't really know, how are we supposed to be able to talk so easily about every little, turn in our life?
I mean, that's why you definitely want to prepare it
Yeah.
in advance and hit for me it was always 3 points to restore it, and with my narrative it was I was working in X and I didn't find it rewarding. I did this research and decided I wanted to do medicine, and then I came here and I had this experience and this experience, which convinced me that I was on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, don't try to make it exhaustive. Just pick a couple of 3 big points and then hit those hard and then be done with it.
So it's not that we should talk about every little
Oh, no,
experience.
definitely
how
do
that
not.
relates to-
Yeah.
Oh, no, that would be a million pages.
Be ready to, not for the essay, certainly not, but for interviews or something, have some way to tie in every experience to why you're there. And try to have one anecdote from every experience that you can reference in support of your point. So you might have to do some memory searching for that, but
Yeah.
don't be worried about picky details
Yeah.
from every experience. Nora, what were the essays like
For dental schools, there is one main essay, the central application that you send, and there are so many questions that you have to answer. For the secondary application, what was your accomplishment? What did you have? Did you do any voluntary jobs or actually one of them was describe a day that you spent at the dentist office, and I feel like during the process of submitting your application, you have so many answers for so many questions that sometimes you can actually use some other answers for answering actually other questions. I don't know if somehow worked for me. You can use the same answer for what's your best accomplishment, and if you did what was your volunteer work. So it's not that hard, but yeah.
Just a quick question. How important do you feel like essays? If you're a pretty well-rounded applicant,
can you really mess up your application by like not interesting personal statement, or like what is the damage that you can do, or the benefit of like a really good essay?
I think the benefit of a really good essay is marginal, but it can definitely crush your application. If I mean, specifically for like the secondary applications, you're going to be writing tons of them. If you swap in the wrong name of the school,
That's true.
they're just throwing you out. I can't imagine they would look at it anymore.
I think it really varies from school to school.
Yeah.
I think for some of them, like Rosalind Franklin, the secondary questions were very generic, didn't get brought up at all. I don't think it makes a huge difference. But at Case Western, like I definitely got the impression that the only reason I was there for an interview, lacking the research experience I did, was because I had written so exhaustively about how my private industry experience related to research experience, and that they definitely like reference both my primary essay and my secondary essays like multiple times. So it just depends on the school, I think.
And my viewpoint is, I think you want a really solid personal statement, but I think the secondary responses are a little, I mean, they're important, but like they're a little less important to have like a really awesome essay, you know?
I mean, and you can kind of tell from the school, because some schools have really unique questions, long secondaries, they really want you to talk about specific things. Those are the ones who are going to read your essays, and it's actually going to be important. Some schools are just like, why do you want to come here? Pay the application fee.
Yeah.
We'll never see
In
you again.
some schools, like Mayo, it's just like, no, just give me $90.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Thanks for coming.